We all get.
Okay, I'm calling our meeting of the Tree Advisory Committee to order at 6:04. Guys, do I need to wait for Cindy to approve the minutes, or are we good because 1, 2, 3, 4 of us are here?
We got a quorum.
Yeah, so I looked through them. I thought they looked good, but you guys always pick up a thing or two that I missed. So does anybody have anything that they want to say about the minutes, or do we approve of them from the last meeting as is?
I apologize, I wasn't at the last meeting, but I did read through the minutes and they look good to me.
Okay, well, that's a true test, because if you weren't there and they look good, then you understood what we talked about and it makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes
So
perfect sense.
I'll take that as a thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I'm not gonna argue.
I'll make a
Okay,
motion to accept the minutes.
perfect, thank you. Delene, do we have any public guests, any input from anyone that
No, we do.
like to speak?
Nope, we do not.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so Paul, do you want to talk about the referral from the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Okay, back in November, Planning and Zoning had referred Mr. Holsworth for Wall Street Place plan for the tree species for review and discussion by the Tree Advisory Committee. And we had our comments, and then there were a couple of other items that I believe have changed since then related to the project itself, not specifically related to trees. So Brett has gotten that together and he's come back and asked to present it tonight so that we can review and discuss the species that have been selected. So Brett?
And Brett is going to speak to us now.
Yes, and he was on just a minute ago.
Oh, I see Brett.
here.
Hi, Brett.
Hello. Hi, for the record, my name is Brett Holsworth. I am a civil engineer with Redness and Mead. We're engineers, surveyors, land use planners. I am not an arborist or a landscape architect.
That's okay, neither am I.
So, I am, in terms of species, I'm kind of a layman, but I can walk you through the plans and project and kind of where we were and where we're at now. So, if you don't mind, I'll just share my screen and then I can start looking at that. Okay. So I presented this application in November, where we got planning and zoning several years ago, and now we're moving towards building permits. There have been a lot of delays in the last 4 years, but we're getting up to speed. We have contractors, bids, we have a building permit submission in the hands of the building department. We're checking the boxes for all of the departments, so we're going through this. And this was one of the referrals that zoning required as part of our zoning sign off. So just to quickly recap what the project is, it consists of 2 buildings. Wall Street Place North is 61 Wall Street. This is the partially constructed building that I'm sure you guys are all familiar with, the Tyvek Temple and all that fun names, on the corner of Wall Street and Isaacs. The other component is Wall Street Place East, 17 Isaacs. It's the site of the former Garden Cinema that's been demolished. So it's residential. Wall Street Place North is a combination of residential apartment buildings and streets retail units, and east is fully apartments and garage space. So what you're looking at is just kind of the paving plan, which we have been coordinating with the traffic department and DPW on the layouts of the streetscape, parking locations and trees and light poles along Isaacs. So what we have now is, a fully coordinated plan with DPW. So with this, we revised the planting plan, which you see here, and I can zoom in. One of the main key components that changed was the street frontage on Wall Street. There are two existing ginkgo trees that are now going to remain as part of this project. We were previously proposing a number of, I believe we had October Glory red maples along Wall Street. We took the criticism, for that was not the best species, and we are keeping the two ginkgos. Just FYI, DPW, the traffic department, is working on a whole new streetscape for Wall Street. They're developing that independent of the Wall Street Place projects, and they said that we shouldn't really be doing anything along Wall Street because they're going to be coming in and developing their whole plan. So that's we're not doing anything on Wall Street, so that's good. Along Isaac Street, we are proposing a number of American linden trees that are kind of aligned with the parallel parking spaces. So you can see the parking spaces and then the tree, and then these dots are decorative street lamps. So you can see it's all symmetrical. It's going down the street, all lined up. And then the street scape continues around the corner. And this is our, garage entrance and transformers and dumpster area. So, we can't put any street trees or anything on that area. And then it continues going down along our frontage. Along the other side, we don't have as much frontage on Isaac Street, but we are able to put two street trees and one lamp post. And those have an acronym GB. So those are our ginkgos that are similar to the Wall Street frontage. So we were able to put those along this streetscape. Along the back of the property, we have, and this didn't change, this was what we had before. We have a number of arborvitaes, essentially for screening, the green giant arborvitaes and the American tuja. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but yeah, that's screening to for the railway that is right next to it. We have this little back garden area where residents can come in, and there's some benches and there's some nice plantings, and then there's stairs that go down to Commerce Street. So that was all part of the zoning approval, and this is the details of the plantings in that area. So that's the site plan. I know last time I was here, there were questions about the tree pits. So as part of the plans that we submitted, there's the City of Norwalk standard streetscape street planting detail. It consists of a 5x5 box with a depth of the root ball plus 6 inches of backfill. So that is the area where trees would be placed. And then on top, after it's backfilled, it's placed with a flexi pave material, which is kind of like a poured rubber, very porous material that is the city's standard. So we built that into the site plans. That's part of our bid package for contractors. And that's basically it. Just in terms of schedule, the streetscape is going to be towards the end of construction. There's a lot of heavy operation with cranes and everything, so it's just not prudent to be installing trees and putting sidewalks in until towards the end. So it's probably going to be projected of the fall of 2025 would be when we'd be looking to install these trees. So with that, I'll turn it over to any questions that you guys may have.
Brett, I have a question. What size tree does the plan call for installation?
Sure, good question. It is the deciduous trees are 2.5 to 3 inch calibers.
So the reason I'm asking that is because last time we tried going with that size caliper tree for sidewalk trees, the canopies weren't high enough
Hmm.
for pedestrian traffic. And we found that you have to go with a larger size tree to get an adequate height on the canopy.
Okay. Is there a suggested caliper that works that you guys have seen from nurseries that is
I think the last time we moved it up to 3.5 inch and it was sufficient.
3.5? Okay.
3 to 3.5, I think. 3 to 3.5, Rich?
Yes,
3 to 3.5? Okay.
we did that down by River Street, correct, Paul?
Yes, we did. Yeah, and that's a key thing is we just don't want the branches to get broken off the trees by the vehicles for those first few years when it's critical for the development.
Yeah, and if you took a 2 to 2.5 inch caliper tree and you lifted it up to the proper height, there was only like 3 branches left, so it looked stupid.
Right.
And then, let's see, the Princeton Century is pretty straightforward. I would go ahead and specify Redmond on the specify the species Redmond on the Tilia americana. Give them
Redmond?
Redmond. I don't know if it's Redmond or Redmoni. What is it, Rich? Redmond? It's Redmond.
Redmond,
That's what
Redmond.
we use down on, that's what we use down on Washington Street, the Redmond American Linden.
Right. This way the contractor knows you're specific. The other thing that I'm having difficulty with is that sometimes we're getting garbage for trees. So in the case of the Redmonds, you might say single leader. Because I know a couple of times they'll go to a class B tree and we're not getting quality. And you know, Brett, nothing personal, but if you're not the landscape architect, you're not going to see the difference.
Right.
I would go ahead and add a notes column that say single leader.
Single leader? Okay.
Single leader and branching, you know, what's
Can you add a note saying to be approved by the city horticulturalist? Thank you, Sarah.
Yes.
Okay.
just because we have gotten poor quality trees. And
Single leader kind of covers that quality at least.
it's a start.
Mhm.
Is there a written spec that goes with these, Brett?
We have notes, and don't believe we have written. I know we have written specs for the entire project, but to be honest, I'm not sure if we have a spec section for the tree specifically.
So who has the
Brett?
right of refusal on these, given the contract? Is it you?
The right to refusal?
Right. In other words, acceptance of the plant material. Who actually accepts it?
I mean, it's the design team. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I mean, if it's in the street, the city right of way, you know, I believe the city would have, you know, the rights to review and refuse if they're not sufficient.
Right, so if you ANSI standards covers your in terms of asking what you bid for. Well, how do we get the city review on this? For the actual,
Well, right now, since planning and zoning has asked it to be submitted to us, what you could do is if there are specs for the trees, like we have in a lot of the projects, whether it's an architectural or a DOT conduct spec, submit them to us and we can review and comment and then go back and let zoning know that, yes, you have met what we've asked.
well, I'm actually looking at the actual tree. Before,
Posted when
I
it's
think it-
installed.
ANSI, if ANSI standards are put into the project specs, that covers us for the approval. Whether we want the right to, whether we want to inspect the material on site or during the procurement process is kind of another question, but I don't know if that's a norm currently.
Normally, we haven't been, but if it's gonna be in the right of way, really, we should have that option to do it with the ANSI standards, yes.
I'm actually asking that we implement that because, again, I'm going to use Sono Collections. Those trees should never have been planted there. They're poor quality.
And they're in the city right away.
Yep.
So it's something we would definitely want to do.
So if we can facilitate that through Sarah, through the board, through the committee, it doesn't matter. But I'm trying to cover you as well.
Yeah, and I would suggest that when we come in for the DPW streetscape permit, a street work opening permit for the curbs, the sidewalks, all the drainage and all that stuff, that's going to be part of that package, to install the trees, and the city will inspect and sign off on that right of way improvement.
And that's correct. And that way there, when they're submitted all that packages, we have the ability then to review everything and comment on it. But right now, the main body was basically the selection and the species of the trees was the zoning wanted our input on that.
Right, so
Correct.
I think I brought this up before. Is there any water supply on the project?
No, these are not intended to be irrigated.
Not
As they're
irrigation, simple water supply. Where's the contract? How does the contractor keep these watered?
Oh, yeah, there's water, there's going to be temporary water, and then there's going to be, permanent water along the building. I don't know if we have a water spigot along the face, but on the inside, there's a garage area that will have it. But these are intended to have, those water, the water sacks, placed around them and then filled in periodically.
I'm pushing the envelope a little bit, Brett, for a project like this should have water available at the street level for maintenance of vegetation. So that's the Gator bag is a temporary supply. Someone's got to come by with a water truck to do that.
One of the things we can do when he comes in for the permit with the encroachment is because they are in the city right away, we would ask them for the water maintenance for the 2-year period and then the warranty like we would normally do with our city contract for tree planting. We would want that included in whatever specs they have. So it would have to be warranted in water for 2 years. And if it didn't survive, be replaced, just like
But
our
these
city.
trees are not coming from our source, right? Eversource is going to their landscape company.
No, it's a public bid, whatever contractor bids.
This
Okay,
is a
Yeah,
project.
this is a private development, so the private developer and their subcontractors are, whoever gets awarded. So it's going
got
to.
it. So then we can work in that we require 2 years of watering and then maintenance.
Yes, and the reason also is because they're in the city right of way.
But there should be a clause, like Peter's saying, that the trees are inspected prior to installation, because they can
Mhm.
also be damaged during transit.
But the city has to approve.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
gotta be in there.
Be built in longer term and figure out how does that actually function on my end, essentially.
I was gonna say, that sounds like a Sarah job.
Yeah.
And this is a good thing too, Brett, we're just sidetrack for a second. If zoning starts referring more of them like this, we have more input on it, which is what we were looking to do with the new zoning regs.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I gotta be honest, that we've done a number of zoning applications, and this is the first one of our entire engineering floor that even heard of your committee. No offense to you, but we've done a number of projects in Norwalk, and we continue to do so. So there's a bit of a learning curve on this. So happy to take your advice, happy to work with you. So you know, if there's a condition that we need to, you know, increase the caliper size, specify the Redmond, add notes and specs, and then, provide water maintenance, plan, and then, have, you know, in the permit or whatever mechanism they pull for installing these, that the city, whoever the city designates to install, they would have the right to sign off and right to refusal.
I think that sounds good. In the essence of time, if anyone thinks of anything else, I think we should email Paul as our point person. And let's move on to 2024 Eversource transmission tree trimming permit. Matthew, if you're
Right.
ready.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thanks, Brett.
Okay.
Thank you, Brett.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Alrighty. So yeah, my name is Matthew Hellman. I'm a transmission arborist with Eversource. I'd just like to review the the vegetation management work we have in our transmission corridor that's going to occur in the city of Norwalk. You know, a couple weeks ago, I met with Paul, Chris Torres, and Jose Ortiz, where we reviewed the work on city parcels, and that pretty much just includes the Oak Hills Golf Course, where we have a corridor that goes through like 5 or 6 spans there. Just to give you an idea of our scope of work in that area, a lot of it is just pruning new growth and saplings that have grown since our last cycle a few years ago. So there's no large removals there. There's a couple off right away Atlantis trees that are dead and have strike potential to the lines. So we're seeking to remove those as well. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you know, city of Norwalk parcels.
And Matthew, I just want to clarify, because a lot of people who watch our recording are not necessarily landscape architects or arborists. So when you call yourself a transmission arborist, you're specifically concerned with transition line vegetation management. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. I'm
Okay.
Connecticut licensed arborist, but I mainly for Eversource, I concentrate on the transmission lines for Southwest Connecticut. So if someone had a question about distribution right now, I wouldn't be able to answer that. But yes, just transmission, the high voltage lines.
Perfect. Just so that, you know, there's clarity when people kind of play us back.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And just so everybody knows too, and Matt Chris, chime in to correct me if I'm wrong, just so everybody in the public realizes, last month we did the distribution lines, which are the local street lines, versus the transmission or the high tower transmission wires, 2 different groups in different areas that they serve in the city.
Great, thank you. And I want to welcome Cindy to our meeting. Thanks for joining us. I know you're really busy over there. Okay, Matthew, thank you. Short, sweet, and to the point. I love it.
Sure. Thank you.
Update with, I'm not sure what this means, potential input for newly awarded U.S. Forest Service grant. Oh, for the new grants. Oh, so Sarah, can you update us on that? That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're getting closer to the contract period. We're just waiting on 1 or 2 more things to kind of check off our list for approval. The rest of my update is kind of tied into my other point about tree liaisons, so I'll let you just go ahead with the next item and then cover it later on.
Okay, sure. Paul, we have a lot of information from the last meeting in terms of our capital grant. Are there any changes to that, or is it reporting the same?
Basically what we're looking, we've got our list that we've developed. Have any of the members of the committee got planting locations that they'd like to see done so that we can coordinate it with the rest of the work that we've already got listed?
When do you need us to send those to you by?
Basically tomorrow, as soon as possible. As soon as we can possibly get them, it would be helpful, because just to give you an example, we've already staked out about 40 trees over on Spring Hill Avenue, and we've got some other locations we've started to stake out. So the sooner we can get them, the better, because we're gonna start placing the orders with Olmsted and Minutemen.
Okay,
And-
so realistically, when do you need these by if we're gonna give people more than 12 hours?
If I could have April 15th,
Okay,
yeah, prior to the next meeting, because the next meeting's starting to get a little bit late.
okay, not a problem. Okay, so everybody, you've been forewarned, April 15th. Paul's got to get one of those forms, which I will bring up during other business. The event on Norwalk Green has been growing each year for the 2 or 3 years that it's been done. It's going to run this April 27th from 12 noon to 4. So they increased it by an hour or two. April 27th is a Saturday. I know that DPW is going to have a table, TAC's going to have a table, and my environmental science club is going to have a table. I'm sure people are always looking for volunteers to man any of said tables. So, and then I think Delene usually has something set up to show recycling in the city of Norwalk and sell some of the recycling bins. So it's a very well attended, fun, family-based event, especially if the weather's nice. It's really well attended. Parking's always a bear, but it's well attended.
We've been
Okay.
working with the planning committee, and one of the things that we've tried to do is discuss the parking a little bit. And the goal of the Earth Day too is trying to get people to walk or ride bikes as much as they can to the event. So there's several places like City Hall, people can park, utilize the parking here and ride up or walk up to the event too. So it's going to be a good event. We've got a variety of different things going on. One thing I will say, the group decided not to spend the money to get tables or chairs. So if we are going to do it, we've got to bring our own chairs and tables.
What do you mean we spent money on tables and chairs?
They were talking about renting tables and chairs for the different people because of it getting larger. And they decided that rather than spend the money doing that, they'd like everybody to bring their own folding table and
Oh,
chair.
that's what
But-
we've done in the past, so there's no change. Yeah. That's fine. That's fine. I'd rather have my own table anyway, and Paul is great with the tables that the DPW has. So okay, so mark your calendar, Saturday, April 27th, 12 to 4. Rich, do you want to update us on the Arbor Day cleanup event? We talked a little bit about it last week, but we wanted to wait until you were here to give us some of the updates.
Sure. So we're targeting the new section of bike/trail walk along Riverside Avenue for the Norwalk River Valley Trail. Paul and I met out there, we reviewed it, and prior to the start of the meeting, Paul told me he spoke with Alexis from Conservation,
Mhm.
and I think we got the green light, or we'll be getting the green light from her. All the tree companies have been contacted. It's scheduled for Wednesday, the 24th. Prior to Arbor Day, we're going to do 8 to 12 like we had in the past. And it should be a great event. There's a lot of good trees that need a lot of work there, and there's a lot of good public focus because it's right along a busy road, and
Mhm.
we're off the road and away from the wires, so we won't interfere with traffic or pedestrians. And Paul's going to make sure the trail's closed for the first half of the day while we're actually working.
That's awesome. And I just want to kind of reiterate that this is a professional event. People who are professionals in the industry have very generously donated their time and their services, and we're not encouraging public to come to this. It could actually be dangerous for them to be there. This is something that we're running as a service for Norwalk as opposed to a public event. So I just want to make sure that anybody who listens doesn't, show up with the kiddos and their puppy.
Good point.
We've talked with the mayor. The mayor is going to be there. It's on his schedule. And Sarah and I have also talked about what we can do after the event, once the cleanup is done for planting, and we've got at least 10 to 12 locations inside the trail to plant new trees that would work there. The NRVT people are really happy with that. And then we're also looking at doing some plantings in the snow shelf along that area too. That would be compatible with that type of location where it is.
Nice
Did
turn.
we, when we talk about planting in the snow shelf, the one concern I have there is the snow plows, because that's a state road. It's a fairly narrow snow shelf, and inside the wires, I think, is far more preferable than that skinny snow shelf next to the edge of the road.
Yeah, we worked out a plan with specific species and actually using some shrubs instead of trees in some spaces. And then we'll also be amending the soil as we're planting. So we kind of
Yeah.
have this solid plan there, make sure it doesn't
Okay,
interfere
good.
with the path or the road.
Nicely done.
Well played, well played. The Silvermine Elementary School, any updates or changes from our last report? Paul, that's you?
We had a meeting, a planning meeting last Friday at the school. Sarah and I attended that together. The school has picked the 2 trees that they would like to have planted in that area. The locations are all set. We're getting ready to order those trees. They've also, we're working with Olmsted to pick out seedlings. They've asked, we talked about books or the different options, and they actually requested seedlings to be handed out to the students. That school has a population, and the principal is really excited about it. And I'm not understating that, Sarah, am I?
No, very.
She's very excited about it, and she wants to even echo basically and accent the fact that that school is a magnet school that speaks Spanish and teaches in Spanish as well as in English. So we're going to have the proclamation done in both languages. And at that point too, we've also talked with them about the teaching component, because as most of you have realized in the past, DoubleTree has done that component. And they'd like to still do that. So Sarah has volunteered generously to do the teaching component, that part of it. And Recreation and Parks, thanks to Robert here, has generously donated some gifts to the kids to replace the night stay at DoubleTree Hotel. They've got some summer programs that they're going to offer to the families to choose from for the poster contest winners.
So they don't have to
Yeah.
stay in a hotel in Norwalk. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So what you're saying is, okay, very
Alright.
good.
Peter had
So
brought
that brings us to number 11, the tree liaison program. Sarah, what do you have to add to that?
Yeah, just one quick note on Arbor Day. I think it's Rich or Peter had brought up labeling the trees that we plant. I found a source to make custom tags, and we'll just attach them with like a thin bonsai wire that won't girdle the branch. And we'll have Arbor Day in English and Spanish with the year, so that the kids, keep seeing that tree and have a sense
What
of
kind of
pride.
longevity does that wire have?
Like 5 to 10. It's something I used on botanical gardens before, so it's it'll fall off before it were to girdle a branch.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay.
For the tree liaison, so my role is to manage and develop any tree related programs in the city, and I'm still trying to get an understanding of all the different initiatives and programs that we have across different departments and with this committee. So I wanted to just ask for like a brief overview of the program. My understanding is that TAC really takes the lead on that. And then part 2 is that with this new grant funding that we have, a big component is public outreach, community engagement, stewardship. And so I could see ways of that funding kind of bolstering this program. So I'd love to just hear a little bit about it, see maybe if there's areas that we could bolster it, improve it, what works, what we could use some help with.
Sure. So I'm sorry that Gay is not here because she is the coordinator for the liaisons. It is, as far as I have been involved with the program, something that is exclusively developed and maintained by TAC, with volunteers. Originally, the goal was to have a volunteer from each of these different sections of Norwalk, but the reality is it was very difficult to get someone from each of those sections, 1 or 2 people, and we just basically we just want people who live in Norwalk, who have a vested interest in Norwalk, work in Norwalk, and can be our boots on the ground and eyes in locations where they frequent and see that there are some voided spots of a tree. I mean, the reality is our committee is made up of very dedicated volunteers, and we all have full-time jobs, and I might notice, you know, a space or two as I'm driving to work, but the more people we have, the more eyes we have. And so that's really the crux of the program, is to have people let us know, and also to be a buffer in these areas. If we know that a tree needs to come down for whatever reason, and the tree warden, Paul is the assistant tree warden, you know, Rich is an arborist or whatever, agree that this tree needs to come down. Sometimes the people who live in that area won't understand the rationale behind something being permitted for removal. And so those tree liaisons then become instrumental in buffering some of those decisions, so that we don't have, you know, people picketing in front of City Hall there. Anybody agree, disagree, you have anything to add to what we kind of at one point we were talking about training the liaisons to stake property for trees. I think that's not really appropriate. I think identifying location, potential location, is probably the main thing. And then to have someone like you or someone else on this committee to go out and take a look and say, yeah, you know, we can put a tree here, even though there are some lines, but it's gonna, you know, modify what kind of tree we can put there. Or no, this is not a good spot because Paul has access to, you know, some underground information that would prevent that tree from being placed there. So I think their initial eyes giving us locations that we would follow up with, really.
Rich or
We-
Peter?
Yeah.
Any ways that you think we could kind of improve it or build it or better advertise it for folks to get involved?
Yeah, I think that I love the that the form has been put on our tree planting program site. I think that's a huge positive. I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly.
While Erica's doing that, I can just let you know too, we've got a lady here that's gonna be part-time in the department that's here as an intern, helping out with some social media information and things like that. So one of the things we can put out there is advertisements for tree liaisons and things like that. So Kim will help us out. She puts the stuff out for Public Works. We'd advertise for Arbor Day, so we can do some of that too.
I think that's a great idea, but I think we should also use that as an opportunity just to get out the word about our committee, highlight something different we do, even if it's something we did months ago or last year. Because too, I think it was Matthew's points or Brett, who mentioned that he didn't even know that we existed. And it's true, a lot of people who have grown up in Norwalk don't know that there's a tree advisory committee. And so really what we need to do is get out information about the great work we do. You know, we need a little cheerleading. We need a little, you know, positive bragging, if you will, to say, yeah, we did this, we planted this many trees, we you know, hosted this program and participated in this other program. And all of those things are really important, that people know that we are a volunteer committee donating this kind of time to, you know, green Norwalk, for lack of a better phrase. So I'm just sharing this because I don't know if anybody else has had the opportunity to go on here. This is a great little kind of informational site. If you click on the tree planting e-request form, I think this form is fantastic. I don't know if I click on it, does my screen change with it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a great form. I love the I Love Norwalk, nice and bright. It's very attention grabbing, short, sweet, to the point, which I've already mentioned I like. You submit it, you're done. You're just being asked something very, very basic here. The problem is that when you go to the paper page, you get the archaic form with just, a new heading, where the person or homeowner or resident or store owner is being asked to insert up to 3 different types of trees that they would like to see there. And I think we all agree that most people don't know the names of trees. They don't have access to the list that we have of trees that we get from the companies that we work with. And this would probably be better off being deleted. And then instead of saying a free tree request form, I think it's important to say, tree advisory committee request form, or something that kind of links it back to us, because we're the ones that field these, and Paul, oversees all of that. And so I think those are 2 things that that bear, kind of revisiting.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure.
think it should be like tree installation request form, definitely not free.
Yeah, but something about tree advisory committee, I think, needs to be on there. We're talking about how nobody knows who we are, nobody knows the work we're doing. This is directly something that we're intimately involved with, and we're not mentioned anywhere on here.
That could precede the tree installation request form.
Agree.
Tree advisory committee, tree installation request form.
100%.
Free should definitely be stricken out of there, because that
Sorry.
just seems like it's got no value.
Thank you. It's just, and then the types of tree desired, I think, just needs to be
No,
completely
we should
deleted.
decide that, because
Exactly.
if you give everybody a choice of a tree, they're gonna go to the one that makes a flower, not the one that makes canopy.
Exactly. We want canopy. We want the right tree for the right spot. We want to look at what's native, and the people are not going to be able to do that. And so that should be stricken from there.
Yep.
Yes, so
Agreed.
last week I sent everybody a couple updates to this specific form. If you all have a chance to review it soon, I'd like to update it ahead of getting requests for the fall. But I did make some of those edits, especially I think it is important for people to have some input on the type of tree that they're getting, and maybe it's better to put it out there as categories. Would you like a large shade tree? Would you like a native tree? Would you like an evergreen? So maybe that's a better way to narrow it down and still give them some buy-in to the program, because we want to make sure that they stay invested and want to care for it.
There was a survey that was done, and they asked people if they liked plants, and then a few questions later, they asked them if they liked botany. They said yes to plants, no to botany, because they didn't realize that botany was the study of plants. So I appreciate what you're saying, but I think it's putting too much of it. I think what happens is, what this form is for is a conversation starter. It's
Definitely.
not for someone to make a decision. It's a conversation starter for us to get out there and say, hey, residents, thank you so much for letting us know. We're going to show up on this day, meet us there. And then they can say, oh, I'd love to see a big cherry tree here. And then someone can say, great. Or someone else can say, you know what? That's not really what belongs here. I think it's a conversation starter. I see at least Peter shaking his head yes.
One of the things that's important with us is when we go to check these out, as we're driving down the street, we've got to get a category, because at least it gives us an idea when we're going down there, because some of the people we can't get 2 or 3 times. You try to get a hold of them, you can't. So at least if we can get a category, it's helpful.
I think on this kind of form, what you're talking about, Erica, I think you can give them the option. I don't think we have to buy into it. I think we can give them the option. So we can't assume everybody does not know about trees. Or we can't just assume that. So I think we say, hey, you have the option of choosing a tree, but
Or do you have a suggestion?
we're gonna make the final decision or something like that. But I think we should provide them this.
No, I
Yeah.
agree with that, saying, do you have a suggestion? I just don't think that people would necessarily know what an evergreen is versus a canopy tree versus some of the other categories that were suggested. But yeah, do you have a suggestion? Sure.
Is it a locational suggestion? You know, is it it's like your street frontage? I don't know. Go back to I'm not looking at the form.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I added actually, as to see your input on that is actually kind of a location classification.
I mean, location needs to be, first of all, in the public right of way or in the public presence.
Yeah,
So-
And to Peter's point, Sarah, we've gotten a lot of people who have asked us to put trees like around their pools and in their backyard because, you know, they just see this form that says free tree and they're like, woohoo, I'm in, you know?
That's what we've been getting, backyard trees a lot.
Yes.
name on there, Jeff. The title I've changed to just tree request form. Putting tree advisory versus something else, I think we need to delineate it's a city funded project and then really advertise it as look at what the tree advisory as a volunteer group is doing and leading. So when you guys have a chance to look it over, give me any feedback and then let's update it for the fall.
We will do that, Sarah. I apologize that I've been really remiss with my emails and I completely missed it. And it sounds like a bunch of us did. So we'll take a closer look at it and get back to you and appreciate you, you know, working on that suggestion. Jeff, any new news?
Not too much new news. We got actually 3 new tree placements requests today, so we're taking a look at those, which is nice. The one big change was that our concert is we're looking to push it back to fall just to allow for proper ticket sales to happen. So I think I gave a date last meeting of May 4th, but we're pushing that, I believe, to September. So when we actually lock in a date, you will be the first to know. So those were my biggest updates for this meeting.
Jeff, I just want to mention one thing too, related to Covewood Avenue. I
Oh,
know
yeah.
you saw the emails going back and forth yesterday. We're doing a drainage project, and I know one of the people mentioned, well, we're up at the other end. The issue is there is drainage down at the south end. It's an issue, but we might be utilizing the islands for Caltech units. So we've got to be careful where we put trees until that design is totally completed. Otherwise, we'll have them either have to be taken out or we'll end up having them grow into the Caltech units because of the water.
Yep, understood. Now you know. Yeah, they came in pretty hot with the emails. I was unaware of that, but yeah, I understand that there's city projects going on, so it just takes a little bit of coordination between the city and you know, residents, and that's where you come in. But I also do want to I know I invited Sarah to introduce herself to our group as the new city arborist. Our meeting is Thursday. If she would like to be there, by all means, we're happy. Everyone is invited. So Florida Farm at 6 Thursday.
Awesome.
But yeah, that's why the updates that you give and we give it this to go back and forth with the planting locations and you hear, we hear yours. It's so important and vital so that we coordinate the efforts together. So thank you for doing it.
Agreed. And thank you all for doing what you all do. One other thing was I was in contact with Gay and I gave her our form to look over because I think she had a number of private tree placements as well. So it's our form that you just went over yours as well tonight, and just like a form letter, a little bit about education of what we do, and then informed her that we use the same native tree list that you all use. So it's all relatively coordinated. But
Awesome. Or
all
at least
good.
looks like we are, right? No, that's good.
yeah, no, it is. So that's all for me.
Great, thank you. Any other business?
New business, old business?
New business, old business, all falls under other.
So going back to our Wall Street Place, I'm looking at the city detail for tree planting. First thing comes to mind is inadequate. And so looking at Brett and saying, we need to do better for underground tree planting. Can't do that if the city standard is not there. So I'm suggesting we look at this tree planting details from the city, Paul, and upgrade those if we can.
Those came right from the package that we had put together, Peter, when we put the projects out for the RFPs. So if we've got to make
That's a
changes,
long time ago.
yeah, we need to make them.
In other words, like the street wells are pretty small. They're just things we should probably upgrade in those.
And just to chime in on that, I know you specified, Peter, the species and Rich as well. Just giving them suggested species that you approve would probably be good too. And then just notes about the quality for sure.
Yeah, I guess, Paul, where I'm going with this is we should start suggesting paired planters and more soils below ground.
Okay. If
Because
you've got specific ideas or dimensions and things that you want to do, please send them to Sarah and I, and we can review it.
let's start at where we have, because I don't know what the city has out there. It's your standard packet.
Yeah, it's the standard packet right on the city website, and it's that same detail that we used in the RFPs that we put together for the
Right,
tree
but
planting.
he's got a tree well detail on there. That's not necessarily it's not necessarily one we did. I don't remember. We have the standalone 5x5 tree pit kind of thing.
Yes.
But what he's showing us there is a 4x4 foot, or it's 3x4. And it just seems like there's more we should be doing. Given the level and cost of something like Wall Street Place, the level of development, getting better infrastructure underground for trees with these kind of projects should not be difficult. But it's not there.
I think a lot of that too had to do with the dimensions of the sidewalks and what they had for space available too.
Of course.
One of the things Sarah's been working on when we're talking about doing is updating those details and other items. And then once we come up with that detail, it would go on our standard details for Public Works and all of the other departments in the entire city.
Yeah, I'm in the process of putting together a couple different standard details, including one for like critical root zone and what tree protection needs to be in place for construction. And so once that passes the engineer approvals, I'd love to bring that here and get your input on
I
that.
wouldn't, I don't think you need the engineer's approval first. I think we talk up front. We had talked about tree protections a long time ago, and Chris had put that in place, but I've yet to see it on the city streets.
Sure, yeah, I mean, I need to run it through, if it's gonna be on their standard detail sheet, I need to be approving that up front.
Oh, no, we should talk before it gets to Paul. Remember, Paul's the engineer.
Peter, remember mine was chain link fence around them down in your neck of the woods down there.
That's damn right, chain link fence. I mean, I seriously, I've yet to see really good tree protection measures in place in the city. I'm still seeing trucks plant under trees. I still give Paul calls all the time about, our contractors, our vendors are parking their trucks all over the place. So this is not a new item, Sarah. This has been on the board for probably 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I'm aware.
This is not going to take Paul by surprise.
Believe me, we want the different ones for the different areas, because there's areas where you don't want to use chain link fence and you can get away with others, but there's other areas where you need to almost use a chain link fence to keep the contractors out.
That's right.
Sarah, you have your work cut out for you.
We'd love to talk like bollards and
That's another thing
street and
too.
fencing too for those downtown areas. So if you guys have suggestions.
And my point about the watering was not about the maintenance, it was about getting spigots on the building. And that's
Yeah.
something that we couldn't do. So that's another long-term issue that needs to get sort of moved through planning and zoning.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we have to be a little careful about that because we can't require it on their building per se, as long as they take care of the trees in some method of doing it.
I'm not so sure we can't in terms of going through zoning approvals, Paul, and requirements for being part of the city tree. I don't know. I don't know that it's not, I don't know that it's impossible,
Sure.
but it's a different approach. It's not something we can deal with through commenting. It's something we have to look through sort of approvals. When you
Yeah.
come,
Happy for the suggestion.
because I
Keep that in
can't, because Sarah hasn't had the opportunity to try to get volunteers to water those ginkgos for 3 years in a row. And taking buckets out of the Chinese dollar store has been very problematic. They're very good to let us, they were very helpful, quite frankly.
Okay, so
No, I mean, Peter has some really good points. My last plug before we adjourn is that everybody needs to mark their calendar for Monday, April 8th. That's 2 weeks from now. We have a solar eclipse happening. If you haven't heard, okay. That's when the moon passes between the sun and the earth. And at 3:25 p.m. on Monday the 8th, it will be 90% in gear. So run outside just before 3:30 p.m. with eye protection, of course. I don't need anybody going blind and coming back to this video and say, Erica told me to go out there. Okay. So without further ado, I move to adjourn.
That,
Anybody second?
Second.
I'll second that.
Good job.
Thank you, Sonia. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your evening. Take care and
care, you as well.
get out there on the 8th.
Have a good
Take care.
night.
Night.
Good night,
Bye.
everyone.